Hi, we've been living with our thoughts running wild our whole lives. So, how has that affected us? And do you think learning to control your thoughts could change anything? Hi, I'm Gina. Here at Hope and Cope, we talk about how to have our best life in spite of painful and sometimes even tragic situations. The Serenity Blueprint is a 4-step process that I use still anytime that I begin to lose my serenity. And I use an acronym. It's called CALM, and it stands for controlling our thoughts, accepting reality, looking to God, and maximizing mercy. Today, we're going to talk about step 1, which is controlling our thoughts. And if you've been with me throughout this Bible study, I hope by now we have determined that not all of our thoughts are from our own minds, that they are thoughts that are planted there by the enemy to cause harm, destruction, distress, to cause us to make bad choices, to cause us to believe lies. I hope by now you are filtering your thoughts and recognizing that you believe some of your thoughts are not your own, they are not good for you, they are not healthy, and that you need to take control of your thoughts. I know that when I fall victim to lies and fear, that it affects my health, my mental health, my physical health. It affects my attitude, and it affects my behavior. Today, we're just going to do a really quick overview of the story of Joseph from the Old Testament. And I tell you, what's amazing about the story of Joseph, it feels like he must have had some kind of precept of this calm blueprint, because he really managed to manage his thoughts and his attitude and his behavior really well. And it's hard when despair comes, and especially when it comes quickly, when life is just moving right along, maybe even in a very blessed and favored pitch, and then all of a sudden there's a dramatic change. How do we manage our thoughts in the midst of a tragic and dramatic life change? Joseph was the son of Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, and Joseph was number 11, but he was the first son of his beloved wife, Rachel. When Joseph was a teenager, he had these dreams, and he shared his dreams with his family, which made his brothers really despise him. They didn't like him anyway. He wasn't the baby. There was another younger brother, also by Rachel. Both of these children were very favored because she was his favorite wife, and besides that, she died in childbirth with Benjamin. So these two sons were really unbelievably favored by Jacob, and that's really unfortunate. Please, if you have family situations, don't play favorites. But that's a side note, and that's not what this lesson's about. So he has these dreams, and in these dreams, he's going to be ruler, and his family is going to bow down to him. So his brothers, despising him terribly, sold him off into slavery, and he was gone from his family for many, many years. Well, he was a slave, and then when he was a slave, he had such a great attitude. He was so empowered and so favored by God that his owner gave him more and more and more responsibility, where he led the household. But then that owner's wife turned on Joseph and lied about him and had him put in prison falsely for doing something very honestly noble and full of integrity. But she lied about him, and she had him put in prison. And so there he stayed for years again. And he, with that great attitude, with believing that God was with him, that God had given him those dreams, that those dreams were true, that they were going to come to pass. You know, when you have dreams that you're going to be a ruler, and then all of a sudden you're a slave and you're a prisoner, I would start to really doubt that I believe that those dreams were from God, or I would think maybe God let me down, or God doesn't know what he's talking about. And so I think I would really be sorrowful and embittered, I don't think that I would try to be my best person and really be growing, be like, how can I grow as a prisoner? How can I grow as a slave? I think I would just really, really not try to hit my potential. But Joseph tried everywhere he was planted to be the best he could be and to really, really excel and to meet his potential and push the envelope. And so he excelled in prison, and the warden had nothing to fear for Joseph being there. He left him in charge of all the other prisoners. And then he was betrayed by another prisoner, and that was really sad. And he sat in jail for at least another couple of years. Finally, Pharaoh had a dream, and no one could interpret the dream. And this person remembered. They're like, oh no, I remember this guy when I was in prison, and he interpreted my dream, and he was right. And so he was called out of prison really quickly. Joseph interprets the dream perfectly. It's a prophecy about the future, and he gives the interpretation of the dream. But not only does he give the interpretation of the dream, he has this immediate vision for how to manage this upcoming horrible event, this famine that's coming, how to manage it so that the people don't starve. And this is a fabulous dream. I mean, a vision, this plan that he gets for how to manage these years of famine is really, really unbelievable how it just came to him instantly. And so Pharaoh makes him second in line. So he goes from being in prison and having been a slave and a prisoner to being second to no one but Pharaoh over all the land of Egypt in a day, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. I mean, it was just insane. But Joseph was being prepared. God told him he'd be a ruler, but he didn't tell him the school he'd have to go through to get to where he was going. And so we just think we're going to go from here to there, and there's not going to be a training and a teaching and a school of hard knocks throughout the way. And so Joseph just really, I believe it with all my heart, that he controlled his thoughts. He did not let despair get a hold of him. That he accepted the reality of where he was, but he knew God's dreams were true. Those dreams he got from God were true. He looked to God to help him, to sustain him as a slave, sustain him when he was wrongly put in prison, sustain him through all the hardships that he had. And then he had mercy. The end of the story is just so beautiful. Once he's reconciled to his family because of the famine, he forgives his brothers for the terrible, horrible, tragic thing that they did to him. And he says, what you meant for evil, God has turned it for good. You sent me here because you hated me, but God sent me here to save, to rescue my family and all these other millions of people. I mean, hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many people over a long period, 7 long years of famine, that were rescued because of Joseph. So he was able to see, yes, those years were horrible. Yes, those years were tragic and lonely, and I had a lot of reason to despair, but I see where God did something amazing throughout all those years. And even though you meant it for evil, I can't hold it against you because God meant it for the salvation of all these people. And it's just a beautiful story. Joseph is my favorite character from the Old Testament. And so I just want to encourage you to control your thoughts, no matter how awful, how tragic your situation is. We are never better off to just let those thoughts run wild. Never are we better off to just let despair get the best of us. We are always going to benefit from reining in those horrible thoughts and saying, this is terrible. I am a slave, or I am in prison, or I have been wrongly imprisoned, and I have been lied about, and I've done the best I can, and yet the world has turned against me. But keeping your thoughts right between you and God and managing that tragedy is so vital to being ready to step out of the darkness and into the light and into your destiny. You've got to be ready for those things, or we will stay in a self-made prison. We'll stay there because of our thoughts, because of despair. We will not be able to walk out once those prison doors are opened. And I thank God that not only was Joseph able to walk out, not only was he inspired or empowered by God to interpret the dream, but he was already ready to have a plan in place to rescue those people and to save all of that whole region of people that were going to be under this terrible famine. Please understand your thoughts when you are in that prison, when you are in that place of despair, they have to be working toward being ready to be set free so that you can be open to the possibilities once deliverance comes. Sometimes we stay in that prison that's man-made, self-made, not man-made, self-made. That's the worst prison of all, is the one that's self-made. Please, beloved, do not stay in the prison that's self-made, but that requires controlling your thoughts on a daily, moment-by-moment basis. So I want you today to think about ways that you can manage your thoughts. Think about things that you let get the best of you. Maybe every time you think of this thing, it's just a weight. It's just a heavy burden. It just wears on you and brings this cloud of sorrow. Think about what you can do to regain power over this thing so that it can't control you. It can't ruin your day at the drop of a hat. That you are the one managing your thoughts and your actions, your behavior, and the way you treat other people, that you're going to not let these devastating situations control you any longer. As you're deciding if there's something in your heart that you need to take control of, reframe, and take the power that it has to control you away, I want you to ask yourself, put it through this 3-part filter. Ask yourself, is that thing hurting my heart? Is it hurting my health? And is it hurting my household? If it's affecting any one or more of those 3 things, then I want to encourage you to try your best to take control of that thing. Mentally, take control of it. Don't let it have power over you to affect your heart, your health, or those that you love, your household. I hope this was helpful. I know it was a little hard, but I know you can do it. I know you can. And if this was helpful to you, please hit the thumbs up button and share it with a friend. Always check out the description box. Always put a little something extra there for you. And I look for my content twice a week. And until next time, I love you. I'm praying for you, and God bless.